Also talking about both sides. Last week we had the conversation about Brandon Miller, who had been taken into custody on allegedly being a part of the murder. Brandon Miller being a freshman basketball player, true freshman basketball player for Alabama Crimson Tide. He is a highly projected lottery pick to go into the NBA this upcoming NBA draft. And when he had a teammate who had a gun, was firing the gun off, I guess you could say, irresponsibly, or maybe with intent to be shooting back at someone at a party. A bullet ends up hitting a young lady. She ends up dying. When that took place last week, Brandon Miller had came into the situation as being somebody who had something to do with the murder, and it was appearing that he was going to be charged with capital murder, as his teammate Darius Miles was charged with capital murder. So that's the headline, big gaping headline last week, right? 1 second, people. Jesus Christ.
I better stop playing with the mouse boys.
Oh, I'm back. So
Yeah,
that's the
I'm
big
nice. I'm nice. I better stop playing with
that's the big gaping story last week, right? Darius Miles, he's
the
going to jail. He committed murder. He had a there's another guy involved, but originally it was stated that Darius Miles called Darius Miller. Forgive me. Darius Miles called Brandon Miller and said, "Yo, bring me my gun." Right? Yeah, I read that. I read that, and it appeared that Brandon Miller took his gun, went to go get a gun or get a gun from wherever, and brought it to Darius Miles. That was the story, and that's why it appeared that Brandon Miller was being indicted on that murder charge. That was what was printed last week, and it's important to come back now as the story has changed, because since that happened, Brandon Miller has since then been let go. No charges have been put against him, and he has continued to go on his college basketball collegiate career, continuing to play. He hasn't been suspended from the team or anything of that like. In these situations, you can only get the misprint is a lot bigger than the apology of saying no, that was false information. And so we definitely want to be responsible with our platform and make sure that just as easily as we could have been like, he going to jail, he did it
we
forever.
really do the sheesh out of it.
To make sure we also come back and say, no, that wasn't the case. He was found to not even be able to be that there was found to not be enough evidence to charge Brandon Miller in this case. And Darius Miller and the other gentleman that was involved are taking that charge all by their lonesome. Now, again, it was stated last week that it was said that Darius hit up Brandon to bring him the strap and for Darius to do whatever he did. Um, but now the story has reversed to, and the reason Brandon Miller is getting off is because his lawyer made claims that like, hey, Brandon had no knowledge that Darius was going to do what he did. One, so bring me my gun. Okay, I guess it's not mine. I'll bring you a gun. But Brandon Miller didn't bring him his gun with the intent to like, yeah, here you go handle that. So that's one piece of the puzzle that detaches Brandon Miller from being indicted into the murder charge. That's one. Two, like I said, there was another young man by the name of Michael Davis who was in the situation, and he Michael Davis and Darius Miller were the ones who were involved with the gun, and and they were involved with the gun. The articles are saying Brandon didn't have to go get the gun. They was going to a party or whatever, and the gun was already in the car. But Brandon didn't know the gun was in the car. Only Darius Miles and Michael Davis knew the gun was in the car, and they just so happened to be in Brandon Miller's car, which initially made it seem like Brandon Miller had something to do with it, but he had no knowledge of a gun being present. He didn't touch a gun, the gun that was used to kill a young lady, and he was just oblivious to the fact, innocent bystander, so to speak, or guilty by association at that particular point in time. And so that's the case of Brandon Miller. Again, true freshman basketball player for the Alabama Crimson Tide, projected NBA lottery draft pick this upcoming NBA draft. And so, still a message to take from that, right? For everybody involved, just be mindful. I know he it said that he didn't know what was going on. You just got to be mindful these days, man, especially when you're somebody like him and your future is only like a few collegiate basketball games away from, cashing out. um, just be mindful who you got in your circle and the people you're involving yourself with and like the places and positions you putting yourself in, man. But yeah, you heard it from the Respect the Game podcast. A lot of people threw Brandon Miller under the bus, called him every name under the sun, and how he threw his life away. But you heard it here from the Respect the Game podcast that he is not being indicted. He is no longer being charged. There's not enough evidence. You heard that information from us. We're giving you both sides of the story. And yeah, man, I think
best of luck to him.
yeah, no, definitely best of luck to him, man. Definitely best of luck to him.